You know the feeling. It usually starts quietly, a small thought, a quiet suspicion, maybe something someone said or something they didn't say. And then, without you noticing, you're 3 days into a private investigation inside your own mind, building theories, connecting dots, replaying conversations from months ago, searching for the pattern underneath the pattern. And the worst part isn't the thinking, it's that the thinking feels right. It feels sharp, it feels like clarity, but somewhere underneath, you know something is off. You're not opening up, you're closing in. This is what an INFJ NiTi loop looks like from the inside. And when it turns dark, it can be one of the loneliest places a human mind can go. Carl Jung, who first mapped the introverted intuition function you use as your dominant lens on the world, wrote that every strength has a shadow. He called it the inferior, the underdeveloped, often unconscious side of the psyche that emerges when we're tired, hurt, or afraid. For INFJs, our natural rhythm is NI paired with FE, introverted intuition paired with extroverted feeling. We perceive deeply, then we connect. We sense, then we care. But when something breaks that rhythm, a betrayal, an exhaustion, a disappointment we cannot metabolize, Faye goes quiet, and NI doesn't stop. It just finds a new partner. It pairs with Thai, introverted thinking, and what looks from the outside like calm analysis becomes, from the inside, something much more consuming. This is the loop. Ni offers a perception, Thai interrogates it, and I offers another. Thai dissects it. There's no Faye in the room to bring warmth, no C to bring the body back to the present moment, just perception and analysis, feeding each other in a closed room with no windows. If you've ever wondered why you can spend an entire evening turning one small comment over and over in your mind, this is why. Your dominant function is doing what it was built to do. It's just doing it without its partner. The psychologist John Cacioppo spent decades researching loneliness, not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of feeling unseen. He found something quietly devastating. When we feel disconnected for long enough, our brain begins to shift into a kind of surveillance mode. It starts scanning for threats and social cues. It sees rejection where there might be none. It reads faces more suspiciously. Cacioppo called it hypervigilance to social pain. And it happens outside of conscious awareness. For an INFJ already prone to pattern recognition, this is dangerous fuel, because now NI isn't just perceiving, it's perceiving through a lens tinted by hurt. And Thai isn't just analyzing, it's building an airtight case for that hurt. You've probably felt this, the moment where you're suddenly certain someone is pulling away from you, the moment where a friend's short text feels like the beginning of the end, the moment where you convince yourself that everyone eventually leaves, and you have 30 pieces of evidence to prove it. And here is the shadow part. The loop doesn't feel bad while it's happening. It feels intelligent. It feels like you're finally seeing clearly. But you're not seeing more. You're seeing narrower. Ni in a healthy state is expansive. It pulls in vast amounts of information, impressions, memories, subtle cues, and lets them settle into a single clear image. It works best when it has space and time and warmth around it. Ni in a loop is the opposite. It gets tunneled. It fixates. It circles one image and refuses to let new information in. Thai keeps sharpening the same knife on the same stone. And meanwhile, the world outside the loop, the friend who actually cares, the situation that's actually neutral, the future that's actually still open, cannot reach you. Jung had a phrase for this. He said that what we do not bring into consciousness comes to us as fate. The parts of ourselves we refuse to look at don't disappear. They wait, and they show up, uninvited, in the moments we least expect them. For INFJs, the shadow often shows up as the person you swore you would never become, cold, withdrawn, cutting, dismissive, certain that you already know how this ends. You've watched yourself do it, cut someone off in your mind long before you ever said a word out loud, written someone out of your story while they were still trying to reach you. And afterward, when the loop breaks, when Faye finally comes back online, you feel something worse than the original hurt. You feel the strange grief of having been unrecognizable to yourself. I want to name something here, gently. A dark NiTi loop is not a character flaw. It is not proof that you are broken or that you are secretly a bad person underneath the empathy. It is what happens when a highly perceptive mind runs out of external inputs and starts feeding on itself. Bessel Kolk, who has spent his career studying how the body holds emotional experience, writes that the mind alone cannot think its way out of a state the body is stuck in. If your nervous system is dysregulated, if you're exhausted, if you're grieving, if you've been holding too much for too long, no amount of TI analysis will free you. In fact, the more you analyze, the deeper the loop grooves itself. This is the counterintuitive truth. The way out of a dark loop is almost never more thinking. It is almost always something the loop tells you is beneath you. A walk, a shower, a conversation with one safe person who doesn't need you to explain the whole architecture of your suffering, a meal, sleep, the physical body brought gently back into the room. So, extroverted sensing is Ni's opposite, and in some ways, it's medicine, not because you need to become a different type, but because the senses interrupt the loop in a way the mind cannot. The cold of water on your hands, the weight of a blanket, the sound of rain, these are not distractions from your depth. They are the doorway back to it. And Faye, your care for others, your warmth, your desire to connect, comes back online more easily than you think. Often, it just needs a single moment of being received by someone, one honest sentence spoken aloud instead of turned over in silence, one text that says, "I've been in my head all week and I miss you." The loop cannot survive contact with real, gentle connection. It can only survive isolation. If you are in a dark loop right now, I want you to hear this. You are not seeing more clearly than everyone else. You are seeing through a lens that is narrowed without your permission. The certainty you feel is not truth. It is exhaustion wearing the mask of insight. Your mind is not your enemy. It is a brilliant instrument that right now is playing the same note over and over because no one has come to sit beside it. Come back slowly. There is no rush here. Notice the room you are in. Notice the temperature of the air. Notice that the story you've been telling yourself for 3 days is one story, and there are others waiting quietly on the edges if you let them in. Your system works the way it does, and it doesn't need fixing. It just needs, sometimes, to be brought back into the light. If this gave you language for something you felt but couldn't name, you're welcome to stay a while. Subscribe if you'd like to keep turning inward together, a quiet place for deep minds